So talc powder, it's called. Talc powder is found in a lot of baby care products like baby powder, a lot of makeup, things like that. And Johnson&Johnson has been caught using, I guess, not properly filtered talc powder, which contains asbestos, which we know it's cancer causing. And it's actually an ongoing case. It's a continuous case. I think it started back in 2016, and so far about 13,000 families have filed lawsuits against Johnson& Johnson. There was a family of 20, or there were 22 families that actually took them to court, and they actually won, claiming that asbestos in their baby products caused the woman to get ovarian cancer. And they were actually awarded over $4 billion worth of money.
And it's crazy if you think about it, because baby powder, we're putting it onto kids and we're, pampering their butts and things like that. And sometimes you hear how like the baby is getting like a rash or the skin is red, and you would never correlate it to that baby powder has asbestos. Like you don't think about that kind of stuff. Like my friend that I know that does like tile floorings and things like that. If the house was made on older tiles that contain asbestos, it's called asbestos. They will not do the flooring. They need somebody to come in like with a hazmat suit and kind of clean it up. So it's crazy how toxic this compound is, but yet it's in their baby powder.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy to think about it. I've read about it a little bit a couple of days ago, and the way the negative effect of asbestos is when you inhale it. It's not so much like touching with your skin; it's when you breathe it in where it does a damage. So it won't really irritate your skin unless you're kind of sensitive to it. Most of the damage is going to come from you breathing it in. So imagine you putting baby powder on baby's butt, and you're actually going to breathe in some, because powder's going to kind of anywhere. It's a powder, so it's going to spread. And these items have been linked to having asbestos, which we know causes cancer. I know asbestos is, like Matt said, a lot of old houses, they have older insulation that might have had asbestos inside just because of the talc powder. Talc powder is used for many things, not only makeup products, but also using insulation and different items like that, where it's supposed to be filtered, but some of these companies try to take shortcuts, or there's always like a margin of error that occurs where a percentage of the products are not filtered properly. So you're going to get some asbestos in there, unfortunately. And like we said with the baby powder, so imagine if you're using baby powder with traces of asbestos, then you're putting on makeup with traces of asbestos, and you're breathing both those things in. Those might add up. So it's kind of scary to think about it, that we're exposing ourselves, but think about the baby as well. So think about the infant, a 5-month-old infant that's already breathing asbestos. That's where the true damage is going to come from.
Yeah, and all the females and anybody that uses any cosmetic products, I think you guys should look into doing your research and seeing what's containing the talcum, and trying to get rid of those products because they are carcinogenic and you shouldn't be using them. So try to do paraben free and try to use as little as possible, because ultimately the real beauty is inside, right, Peter?
Yeah, it's always inside, but you could only look at you can't look at their internal, forever, unfortunately. You know what I'm saying?
That is true. So the research that we did is, I don't know how big the research study is, but it basically was controlled, and it is linking to more ovarian cancer, correct? And what Johnson&Johnson was getting sued for was mesothelioma. So basically, that's the lining of the lungs and like the pericardium and the heart, and also some digestive organs have that lining, and that's where the tumor has been shown to grow, and that's what the people are trying to receive compensation for from Johnson&Johnson.
That is correct. There's different types of mesothelioma, but the one in this case, we're just talking about mainly the one that occurs in the lungs. And like Matt said, there are research studies that show that there is damage leading from traces of asbestos exposure, but there are also some studies that link saying that has no effect. So there's mixed studies, but why even put yourself in that place anyways? Why, you know, like we said before, there's multiple products that might have asbestos. Why even try? Try a different method, or just use them as minimally as possible, because there's a margin of error while some of the stuff is going to get filtered through.
Yeah. So DYOR, do your own research and make sure you're moving any products that contain it. Simple as that, right?
Yeah, and I also looked at some stats about mesothelioma. So most mesothelioma is occurs in men, just because men tend to work construction, more of you know, like insulation, more of they have more exposure to it, just because of the jobs they do. So mostly men between the age of I think it was 25 and 64 get it, and usually it's in the later stages, because you don't get the symptoms of mesothelioma until like stage 4. That's when you get shortness of breath and cough. And then you go to your doctor, they do a biopsy, they do the scans, and they see that you have a tumor in the lining of your lungs. But people don't feel it growing, or stage 1 and stage 2, because it's curable in stage 1 and stage 2. It's manageable. You could do chemo, you could do certain radiations that they could cure you of it. But unfortunately, a lot of the times it gets caught in stage 4, where your prognosis is about a year to a year and a half left to live, which is very sad. And I'm not sure what state you're in, but I know in Illinois, I see a lot of mesothelioma lawyers, like commercials going on, especially at night in a hospital. I'm not sure if you noticed the same thing, Matt.
I have actually when I'm giving my patients bath, and that's like that me time. And sometimes I'm looking at commercials, and the life alert goes on, and also there's lawyers that are suing for different medical devices. One of them, they do talk about mesothelioma, but I don't know if there was a correlation between that and baby powder. I didn't look at it to that degree till I read this article about Johnson&Johnson.
Yeah, well, those commercials mainly talk about people that are over the age of 65 that have worked these labor jobs, like construction, things like that, where they've been exposed. And I actually made a mistake on the stats. It's actually people that are 65 and older, men, that get it. It takes about 20, 55 years to develop. That's why it's a slow forming cancer. But like I said before, that we don't catch it till stage 4 usually, and that's when the prognosis is very bad, because this occurs over years of exposure and just takes time to develop. So unfortunately, it's a very deadly cancer.